Is the Super Bowl window open for the Houston Texans? Let's break it down. Welcome to the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans and let's talk about that Super Bowl window. Is it open for the Houston Texans? And if it is indeed open, why do I believe that it is open and why it's here to stay open for the next few seasons? If you haven't been to the channel before, I'm Cody Stoots. Appreciate you checking it out. We'll go to the comments as we can throughout this live stream. And of course, Super Chats go to the front of the line. A little bit about the Super Bowl window, the Super Bowl itself, some off-season conversation. We'll, of course, finish up with your questions and answers. I got to tell you about my friends at Underdog Fantasy as well. But let's get into the Super Bowl window. Is the Texans Super Bowl window open? And it's a loaded question because there's not a true for sure answer because two teams make the Super Bowl every year. And right now in the AFC, your window only opens if you close Kansas City's window for a year. It feels like the Chiefs are going every single season in the AFC. And of course, that's where the Texans are right now. But is the window open? And I can for sure today say the window is open. The Super Bowl window is open. These next few seasons are when the Houston Texans need to make that run to the big game and find themselves playing in the final game of the season in the Super Bowl. It needs to happen in these next few years, and it can happen in the next few years because, as I've said, the window is open. I'm here today to declare the Super Bowl window open for the Houston Texans. Now, there's three reasons why I believe the window is open. The top reason, the first reason, the number one reason, and the most important reason why the Super Bowl window is open, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is special. He showcased it over the course of his rookie season, and the growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year should get you super excited about the future of not only CJ Stroud, but the Houston Texans. The window is open because CJ Stroud is who he is. Now, you think about some of these teams that are in the hunt for the Super Bowl every year. The biggest thing that they have is a surefire big-time QB. And it certainly feels like CJ Stroud is on his way to that. He's not quite in the Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson tier, but you'd be hard-pressed to say that he's much lower than the tier below those guys right now. And this was his first season in the NFL, his rookie year, and he looked this good as a rookie. And if you've been around me for any portion of years, you know that I joke all the time. Everybody thinks their quarterback's going to get better in the offseason. Well, there's no evidence to think that CJ Stroud's going to get anything but better this offseason. The growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year showcases a tremendous ability that not every QB has. A lot of guys start the year, that's as good as they are, and then it's kind of up and down, and that peak is sort of where they started the year. For CJ Stroud, he started the year at a solid place and then found new peaks throughout the course of the season. You would hope and think he's going to do that again in the future and certainly going to do it next year. He's the biggest reason this Super Bowl window is open. Now, he's got to be a big-time elite quarterback eventually if this window is indeed going to be there for the Texans and they're going to have themselves an opportunity to play in this game. He's got to continue to grow. He's got to continue to be even better than he was as a rookie. But again, all evidence points to CJ Stroud will do that. And the only evidence we do have is the intense growth that he showcased over the course of his first season in the NFL. So reason number one, the Texans Super Bowl window is open, is number 7, CJ Stroud. Appreciate the comments. We'll get to those as the video goes on. Reason number 2 that this Super Bowl window is indeed open, it's DeMeco Ryans. You look at the teams that are competing year in and year out, not only do they usually have that quarterback, but that coach is coaching to the best of his ability on a consistent basis. Now, I know for sure CJ Stroud is big time, surefire, and he's going to get better. There's not as much assuredness to DeMeco Ryans, the head coach, but I have a strong belief in DeMeco Ryans, and I have a strong belief that he can be a Super Bowl coaching and Super Bowl potentially winning head coach. And again, the evidence we have is one season's worth of work, but you look at the different players that played up to their intense potential under DeMeco Ryans. And I think it starts on the defensive line. Malik Collins had a nice year. Sheldon Rankins had a nice year. Jonathan Grenard played the best football of his career. Will Anderson's in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Then you move it back to the secondary. You look at the linebackers. Blake Cashman played his best football of his career. Derek Stingley was incredible. You had bench players and depth guys come in, fill in, and be solid players over the course of the season on that defense. And part of DeMeco Ryans as the head coach is he's got to go out there and find coaches to coach offense. Well, Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, Gerard Johnson, the quarterback's coach. Neither one of those guys is leaving. They're sticking around. So there's another year of growth under those guys over on offense. DeMeco Ryans got a lot of potential out of the guys over on defense as well. There's a lot to like about DeMeco Ryans, the head coach. Yeah, there's a game management thing here or there. You think back to the game against Baltimore when the season finished that, hey, maybe they should have challenged early on. Some of the fourth down calls have been a little iffy over the course of the season, but DeMeco Ryans' game management is in the top 10 in the league, top, third of the league. So you can win with that. You can survive by that. And, oh, by the way, he's going to get better. There's nothing that showcases that this guy is going to get worse. Plus, you're going to have guys another year in the system, likely more investment in the team on the defensive side of the football, and players like Will Anderson, Derek Stingley ascending to their peaks as well. DeMeco Ryans is in a good spot with this defense and with this team. Now, he's going to have to continue to improve the play calling on defense and take that to the next level. You've got to have a really good defense to be a Super Bowl contender. I believe in DeMeco Ryans. You should as well. He's reason number 2 that this window is open. Now, reason number 3, it's number 3, but it might be more reason number 2 for me, is the opportunity to construct, change, and adjust this roster over the next few seasons. The greatest advantage in sports from a financial standpoint is having a rookie quarterback on his rookie deal play really well and then play well in the ensuing seasons. Not having that giant quarterback contract on your roster allows you to do so many things. It also allows you to make mistakes. When you make mistakes when your quarterback is already paid, those things hit a lot harder, and you have to suffer through that, and you have to make more sacrifices than when you've got a few years before CJ Stroud gets a giant contract. The ability to accelerate into the opportunity that the Texans have right now with the investment in this roster, man, it is unlike many teams have in their opportunity. You look at Baltimore, they've had to build this thing back to a Super Bowl level. They were the top seed in 2019, and they just became the top seed again. Kansas City has dumped a bunch of assets and a bunch of money into this team over the course of Mahomes' time, and a lot of that investment showed up initially when Mahomes was playing really well on the rookie contract, and then when Tyreek Hill wanted a whole bunch of money, they had to ship him off because they didn't want to pay him, and they had to settle for a couple of players here or there. The Texans aren't in that situation. They want somebody, they can go get somebody. They've got some of the most cap space available this offseason. The cap's going to continue to go up. They've got 8 draft picks, including I think it's 5 in the top 126 or so of the picks. So they have got the ability to pour into, build into this roster over the next couple of seasons and shore things up. Sure. Are they sitting there right now with a vacancy at starting defensive end, starting corner opposite Derek Stingley? They need some depth on the defense. They need a starting defensive tackle next to Malik Collins. They need a tight end and a running back. Yes, they need a lot of stuff this offseason. But they have the ability to bring back the players that they like. They want to bring back Jonathan Grenard. They want to bring back Dalton Schultz. They can do that. They want to improve on what they had at the running back spot or the depth positions on the team or linebacker. They've got the ability to do that. It's a multifaceted thing. You can bring back who you want to bring back. You don't lose somebody to a salary cap crunch. You can upgrade over who you want to upgrade with by investing money in that player. And then you can backfill a lot of this stuff with cheap talent because you still have your draft picks. Think back to 2020. The 2020 Texans team didn't have that first round pick. They squandered their second round pick on Ross Blacklock. They used another second round pick to trade for Brandon Cooks. They didn't spend a ton of money that offseason. They jettisoned DeAndre Hopkins because he wanted more money. They were in a precarious position despite having Deshaun Watson still on that cheap contract. I know he signed the extension, but it hadn't kicked in yet. The Texans aren't going to suffer through that with CJ Stroud. They've got the picks. They've got the money. They've got the ability to pour into the roster and adjust the construction of it as they see fit over the next couple of years. And that, along with DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud, that opens the Super Bowl window for the Houston Texans. And most importantly, it's not going to be a fluke when they start to make this run. It's built to stick around for the next few seasons. The Texans have got to go and take advantage of this window being open and try to get that championship. Perhaps the best example that I could put together, the Cincinnati Bengals, after Joe Burrow's rookie year, they went and spent some money, uncharacteristically spent some money, invested in some guys, took some big swings in free agency and some risky players. They drafted well, filled things in. The next thing you know, the Cincinnati Bengals were playing for a Super Bowl. They were a factor and are a factor in the AFC each and every year, in large part thanks to their head coach, their roster construction and acceleration into the roster, and at the time, their big-time quarterback, which the Texans have the coach, they got the big-time quarterback, and they got the chance to pour into this roster. That is why they are Super Bowl contenders from here on out. The window is open. That was me opening a window. That's not how you open windows. You open windows like this, go through the window. Go get you a Lombardi if you're the Houston Texans. Appreciate everybody jumping in. Love the comment section. If you want to get to the top of the comment section, that's what the super chat is for. You appreciate everybody watching. Jim, good to see you. Other Jim, or Jim 2, good to see you. Mr. Bo on the top, good to see you. I'm doing great, sir. How are you? Matt Marr, loyal supporter, good to see you. Sean, appreciate it. Appreciate you jumping in. Good to see you. Kenneth, Backstreet Marine, Stoots, we have to draft Jalen Wright from Tennessee, running back. Does everything 4.31, 40-yard dash. Tennessee produces zone runners. Arian Foster, anybody? Pair him with JJ. I'm guessing you mean Josh Jacobs, Backstreet. Look, there's going to be a lot of running backs that you can bring into the fold. I would like to see them invest in a veteran, perhaps even a pricey veteran, and then invest in a young guy as well. Jeremy's got a question. Hey, Suits, what's up with your take on the Diggs gossip? Hypothetically, we get him. Do we still draft a wide receiver in the draft for depth since it's such a heavy wide receiver draft, or so we plug other spots on the roster? I am totally against trading for Stephon Diggs, and I just don't believe in a guy who can get that upset when the team was making things happen and the team was successful. Like, the Bills were a successful team, and he was still upset on a week-in, week-out basis. I want team players. I want a guy that's happy with a win, regardless if he's got 1 catch or 10 catches. I don't want a guy that just wants the ball all the time, and I don't love the production that Diggs has had in the past couple of years. I don't love the fit for the Texans team. I don't really love Stephon Diggs, and I would not like the Texans to trade for Stephon Diggs. I understand that, big-time wide receiver, the Texans could use him with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. He's not as pricey as some of the other wide receivers out there. Probably going to be cheaper than T. Higgins' new contract, Mike Evans' new contract. I'm just not in love with the idea of that mentality in this Texans locker room. Now, maybe DeMeco Ryans would tell him to, shut up and let's go. But I don't want to put that X factor personality into the Texans locker room. Matthew's got a question or a comment. We need a top flight running back and a true wide receiver. One, I like Nico, but I can't go into the new year thinking he'd repeat that season. I definitely re-sign him, It's not at top money. Sign Henry and draft Corum in the second round. I'm assuming you mean Derrick Henry and not Hunter Henry, the tight end, who's also a free agent. I'd sign Nico Collins. I'd try to get him on a deal. I believe that is who he is. He is a 1B. Okay, 1A is the unquestioned, no doubt, every week, no matter what, that guy's going to get it done. That's your Tyreek Hills. That's your Devontae Adamses. Okay, then there's the 1B guys like Nico Collins, where it's like, hey, he's really tough to guard, but maybe you need a couple of situations right for him to have a really good game. For me, Nico's got to have CJ, and they got to be dialing things up the right way. But look, he's very much in the 1B conversation, but there's just a whole nother echelon that you have to get to as a 1A. And oh, by the way, you can't ever have too many pass catchers. So put as many pass catchers, as many good pass catchers as you can on the field at once. H-Town's Ultimate, good to see you. JJ, good to see you. Yes, hit the like button. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Spike says, Mike Evans. Spike, we did a video on this on the YouTube channel here. I just can't get on board with Mike Evans at $25 to $30 million a year. It just feels like too much money for a guy like Mike Evans, and he's got every argument to ask for something close to that. He's the most consistent wide receiver in football. He's still really good. He succeeds with every quarterback that he plays with. He's only going to be 31 years old, and he's got every right to ask for a big amount of money, especially with the salary cap moving up and some of the lack of big-time wide receivers that make it to free agency. You know, guys like Mike Evans don't make it to free agency. You look at the top wideouts as far as their money, A.J. Browns, the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adamses. We just talked about Stephon Diggs. Like, those guys got traded. Like, Mike Evans might hit true blue free agency, and guys like him just don't hit free agency. And he's going to sign a massive deal. You think back to a couple of years ago, the biggest free agency wide receiver deal in the past couple of years is Kenny Golladay, and he stunk, and he was a one-hit wonder. Mike Evans has done this for a decade. He is damn near unstoppable. He's going to get you 1,000 every season. I just can't get on board at 25 to 30. Now, $20 million a year for the next 3-ish or so years, I'm in. Sign me up for Mike Evans at those numbers. 25 to 30, I'm out. I'm out on that. J-Rock, I'd rather Josh Jacobs over Saquon. I would like Josh Jacobs in this offense. You know what they did with Jacobs a little bit at the end in Vegas? They threw him the ball a little bit there towards the back end of the season. I showcased a little bit here with catching the ball as well as, he is a nasty runner. He is a nasty runner. Let's see. Oh, P nasty. What does it mean to play QB? To make those around you better? Yes, CJ Stroud talked about it. CJ Stroud talked. He's going to be a part of, the elevation of his teammates. That's a part of the Super Bowl window being open. He makes Nico Collins. He makes Tank Dell. He, because his passing prowess, he makes, the rushing attack easier to operate. Yeah, Stroud's talent and elevation is a big part of this. Jeremy, tight end spot. Who do you like? I like Schultz. I think he's a top 10 tight end. I also believe he's the best in free agency. Unless we draft a tight end. Look, tough to draft a tight end. You don't get Sam Laporta's every year. Laporta is probably one of the best tight ends in football already for the Lions. You don't get Sam Laporta's every year. And in fact, if you're betting on that, that's foolish. Dalton Schultz is the best tight end who's a free agent. Gerald Everett and Hunter Henry are the only two guys that are even close to him. And I like Schultz better than those guys. Those guys maybe block just a tiny bit better, but Schultz is just, familiarity with the team, familiarity with the offense. I would seriously consider bringing Dalton Schultz back on a 2-3 year deal and get him back in the fold because he is the best free agent tight end. And guys aren't trading their good tight ends. Like, you're not getting Evan Ingram from the Jaguars. TJ Hawkinson's knee exploded at the end of the year, so I feel bad for him. But, you're not getting TJ Hawkinson. Sam Laporta is not leaving his team. Mark Andrews isn't leaving the Ravens. Kelsey's not leaving the Chiefs. So going and finding that tight end You got to be able to count on guys. It's hard to find that elite tight end. Schultz is not elite. He's very good. He's good to very good. So I would keep him. I would seriously consider keeping him. I'd pay him $10, $11 million a year and call it a day. And hope that gets him signed up. It's easier for me to say, I'll call it a day. Adults could probably go out there and find him a little bit more. Jacobs is a great second option. Barkley pass catching makes him the priority. I like Saquon more than Josh Jacobs, but certainly I wouldn't be upset with either one of those guys. H-Town Ultimate, I don't like the Diggs contract. Hard pass on Diggs. Yeah. I don't love Diggs' situation, man. I don't want to add him. I don't want to add him to the Texans. Lavero get. I don't know. If you were a GM, how would you play out the whole free agency versus the draft thing? You already know I'm an advocate for defensive free agency, wide receiver in the first, then BPA from there. So here's how I would do it. There are positions that I trust in free agency more than I trust them as a draft pick to help my team right away. And I would tell you that I trust defensive linemen in free agency. I trust linebackers in free agency, and I trust corners in free agency. I don't always trust safeties, but there's some safeties out there this year that I'd sign up for them right away. Antoine Winfield's probably one of my favorite targets in free agency. And then from an offensive perspective, I don't trust wide receivers in free agency. And then if you add a free agent running back, I feel like you also need to draft a running back as well. And then you start looking at the rest of the situation. Okay, if you don't add a free agent wide receiver, then you need to draft one. You probably need to draft some tight end depth as well. So it's tough because if you find if you sign Matabike, the defensive tackle from the Ravens, well, then you're not drafting a defensive tackle in the first round. That'd just be a silly level of investment, but you're also not signing any sort of other big free agent because he's going to be super expensive. So it's kind of the give and take. I trust defensive tackles and defensive ends in free agency more to impact right away than I do the 23rd overall pick or the pick that they have in the second round and stuff like that. Draft wide receivers and pay running backs got to be the move. I like that. Tony Yayo, Cody, let's go get Le'Veon Bell. Tony Yayo, let's not. Okay, let's not go get Le'Veon Bell. Better options than Le'Veon Bell. Zach Moss would be a better player than Bell. Bell hadn't played football. He wasn't good at the end of his career. I get that he wants to make a comeback, but let somebody else handle that. Cody got his own merch. First time seeing it. That's correct. You can buy yourself a Houston football hat. I believe I have the link in the description. Better job of putting the link in the description, but you can buy yourself a Houston football hat. If the link's not in the description right now, it will be before it will be in the video going forward. So make sure I put that link in there. I'm pretty sure I got the hat link in there though. Well, maybe not. Hold on. But yeah, you can buy yourself a hat. I'll get the link here and I will stick it in the. Yeah, here we go. I'll stick it in the chat if you want to buy a hat. I package them myself. I put them in the bubble mailer, write your address. I do it all by myself. No big company doing that. Bentley says Malachi Corley in the second round. Fun prospect, Western Kentucky. Really good. A lot of production at Western Kentucky over the past couple of years. Little up and down at the Senior Bowl. Let's see how the rest of the draft process plays out. There's players I like more than him in the second round. Ladd McConkey from Georgia. Roman Wilson from Michigan. Two guys that I like. But he's a nice player. He's a physical guy. Man, he's physical. I just think him and Bobby Slow get along really well. Tony Yayo says, go get Keenan Allen. I don't know if Keenan Allen is going to be available because Harbaugh is going to try to win right away. And Keenan Allen, you kind of need him to sort of win right away. If you're in the Charger situation, think about what San Fran was when Harbaugh first got there. They were basically turning things around and getting things going right away. So I don't think I know it feels like they were probably a rebuild, the Chargers, but Harbaugh's going to try to accelerate that thing. Jim, I very much apologize. I did not see this pop up, but thank you so much for the super chat. He says, great job covering the Texans this season. I know you're covering them in the offseason, but thanks for your hard work during the season. Jim, thank you for the super chat. Thank everybody in here for the support over the course of the regular season. It has been fun. The super chats are fantastic. Jim, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for that. Super chats are great. Thumbs up on the videos are great. Share it with your friends, your enemies, your colleagues, your associates. Thank you guys. It's been a very fun regular season. It's going to be an even more fun. To be even more fun off season. We're going to have a blast here this off season. Draft talk and free agency talk and all that kind of stuff. Case says, Stoots, I got the hat and stickers. Thank you so much. Yeah, Case picked up a hat, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel and supporting the cause here with a Houston football hat. There'll be more merch on the way. We'll get more stuff up in the store for you here in the coming days. Let's see. Miles and that cognac. I'd say give Mike $20 million and $10 million in incentives. That's not an option. Get Higgins, but whatever the Texans do, they cannot afford to squander going cheap this offseason. I very much believe you saw what Nick Caserio did last offseason and some heavy investment in a couple of guys. Not that Sheldon Rankins was some game changer, but they paid Sheldon Rankins a good amount of money. They still paid Dalton Schultz a decent amount of money. I know the tight end market was a little depressed. They adjusted Steven Nelson's contract to make him happy. They spent some money on Jimmy Ward. They spent a little bit of money at linebacker. They could probably stand to spend some more money at linebacker to kind of fill in with Christian Harris and maybe keep Blake Cashman there from that linebacker room. But yeah, they're not going to I don't believe by any means that they're going to cheap out on this offseason. I definitely think they're going to chase some big names, and I feel like they're going to chase some really interesting names. And I do believe they're going to try to keep some of the guys that were successful with them. Like I believe they're going to try to keep Jonathan Grenard and Dalton Schultz. And if they get priced out of those guys and they want to repurpose that money to a couple of different guys, I certainly would understand that too. But I don't believe they're going to be sitting there with sitting on their hands, not spending money. I definitely feel like they're going to spend money. Definitely feel like they're going to spend money. Texas SAR says, really like Jalen Polk, former Texas Tech guy, went to Washington in the second round if we go CB in round one. I said this the other day. If you saw the video with John Crumpler from Texans Wire, he was at the Senior Bowl as well. I said this the other day. I'll sign up now for Quinyon Mitchell. I'll sign up now for Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo. He was super impressive in the Senior Bowl. You watch some of the stuff at Toledo. And guys, I don't watch film. Film is when you can see all 22 players and you break it down like that. But watching his stuff at Toledo, he looks like he's got it. He's physically imposing. He's tough. And the demeanor is incredible. He'd make a big play at the Senior Bowl, and then he walks back to the huddle. There's none of that no fly zone crap or standing over guys and staring them down. Nope. Make the play, back to the huddle. Make the play, back to the huddle. Let me tell you, he was making play after play after play after play at the Senior Bowl. Quinyon Mitchell. Hit the highlights on the YouTube for Quinyon Mitchell, including a couple of pick sixes. I think it was 2 years ago for Toledo. The dude is fun. So fun to watch, and he was incredible to watch at the Senior Bowl. I believe CJ wants one of the top wide receivers in the first. They'll draft him same way he wanted Tank. He's earned the right to make demands, LOL, as long as D'Amico gets his defensive guy. I feel like CJ is going to be down for whatever's best for the team. If it's getting a mauler on defense, getting a mauler on defense. If it's getting a wide out, then get the wide out. You know, if it's trading back and adding a second day pick so you can get a couple of more guys, do that. There's plenty of I think CJ's going to be pro Texans. I don't think he feels like, he'll go to war with Nico and Tank right now. He may not feel like he needs another guy. Mr. Robot. Oh, nice. You got the merch already. I like it. I'm probably going to get me a hat soon. Thank you. I put the link in the chat. I'll make sure that it's in the description of this video as well. You know what's in the description of this video, though? is a link to my friends at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, the best way to play fantasy. And you're saying to yourself, Cody, fantasy's a regular season thing. No, not with Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em format. You can take just one game. It doesn't even have to be just football, basketball, baseball, college hoops. They've got it all. Soccer. They've got it all. Underdog Fantasy. It's really simple to play Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em. It is higher or lower on predicted stats. You slam 5 together, you 20 times your money. Heck, you can play with it just as few as 2 entries into your entry. And sometimes, that 3 times your money, you put a scorcher in there, it'll 4 times your money. Underdog Fantasy, it's awesome. Of course, the Super Bowl is Sunday. I want to show you what it looks like over at Underdog Fantasy. You're going to get 2 times your first deposit when you use my promo code Stoots, STOOTS. 2 times your first deposit when you use my promo code Stoots. The link's in the description down below. This is what the website looks like. It's pretty easy to navigate. This is the Pick'em format. You can already draft stuff like PGA season drafts and things like that. I like the Pick'em format, though, especially with just 1 game left in the football season. You go down here to the NFL and see how easy it is, higher or lower on predicted stats, and sometimes with these little chili peppers, they give you the scorchers that multiply your payout. Let's put a real simple one together here. Let's put a real easy one. I definitely like Brandon Ayuk to score a touchdown, and Travis Kelce in this game with his lady watching, and her favorite number is 13. And if you just add up the 4 and the 9 from the 49ers, that's 13. And if you take 13 away from 100, that's 87. Look at this. Real simple. $10, $10 to win 35. That's how easy it is to play Underdog Fantasy. You could put 5 times stuff together. I've already got some in for the Super Bowl as well. A couple of Ayuk, Mahomes, Samuel, put those together type things. And a dollar into 20, 5 into 100, 10 into 200. You get the drift here. Underdog Fantasy, the best way to fantasy. Stoots, STOOTS, the link in the description down below is where you can find it. Let's get back to those comments. Of course, it's Q&A time. Fire it away. Whatever you want to talk about, we can get to here about this Texans team. Support Underdog Fantasy because they do a great job supporting the channel as well. Jim says, should the Texans hire Bill Belichick as a special advisor? They could pick his brain for a year until he gets a job. I got a hunch they don't need Bill. They don't want Bill in the building. And I got a hunch Bill's got some other stuff going on too. Maybe some media stuff, and we'll see. Daniel says, fill in spots through draft, even round 3 day draft, or even 3rd round day drafts are important if we can hit on them. Stop trading away draft capital. The advantage of having D'Amico as a coach is he develops players. Yeah, he certainly does. He's done a good job developing players. A lot of young players, 2nd-year guys, 3rd-year guys, and certainly rookies contributed really well on this team. Obviously, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, Juice Scruggs, once he got healthy, locked down that left guard spot. Jared Patterson was a late-round pick. Henry To'o, probably not a great player, had a couple of moments where he was nice, filled in early on while the Texans kind of got their legs going on defense. Obviously, Tank Dell's really good. I don't know what to expect out of Dylan Horton or if he's going to return to the team. But, yeah, I mean, you use those picks. Use those picks. Cody, what about Roman Wilson? I hear a lot about him. Roman Wilson was the best offensive player at the Senior Bowl. Wilson was really good. He beat everybody, including Quinyon Mitchell. I felt like he was the practice MVP through the first 2 days. And, in fact, he felt the same way because he didn't practice the 3rd day. He was out of there. Roman Wilson, really good at Michigan. Speedy guy, can run all the routes. John Harris, who is at Football Takeover and also works for the Houston Texans. He's a sideline reporter for the Houston Texans. John's one of the best draft guys in the business. Okay, we'll get John on the channel a couple of different times over the next few weeks to talk draft. His website's incredible. And he says Roman Wilson reminds him of a Will Fuller type player. And I got excited thinking about adding a Will Fuller type player to this offense with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. And I really like Roman Wilson. I'd be super happy to see his name get called for the Texans in the 2nd round. Mr. Robots says, I really want them to chase big running backs first. I believe that's what's most important. I think it's how others beat us last year nearly every time. You got to run the ball on this. You got to run the ball. The way this team plays, you've got to run the football. It makes everything else so much easier on offense, and it gives that defense a chance to really take a break when stuff's getting strenuous. Think about the Atlanta game. They were right back out there. It felt like so much on defense that it felt to me like it really took a toll on them late, and then they allow Drake London to march down the field on them. So like the defense gets tired out when the offense has got to go, 3 and out or 4 plays. The next thing you know, the defense is running back out there, running the ball, making everything easier, extending the time the offense has the ball makes it easier to unleash the defense. They've got to run the football better. And yes, I would love for them to chase the big time running backs in free agency first. And I would like for them to add one in the draft as well. Daniel says, in order to establish a consistent dynasty, they need to hit on draft picks and develop players, trade players for draft picks. I mean, look, the only time you trade a draft pick for a player, to me, or you should be thinking about doing that, or you do that, is if you feel like he's like the last piece. Late round picks for guys that you think is pretty good. That's one thing. But first or second round picks for guys, I'm not totally in favor for that because usually those guys are expensive. Backstreet asked, are you familiar with the slot from Arizona, Jacob Cowing? He's a problem. Had a couple of moments at the Senior Bowl, didn't jump off the page, didn't really stand out a ton at the Senior Bowl. Certainly a guy in the certainly a guy for me to pay attention to in the next couple of weeks and months as the draft gets closer. Jeremy asked, who would you rather have, Higgins or Davis? And we need to sign Jacobs. Henry's going to be expensive, and Barkley's injuries. Barkley has injuries. I don't want T. Higgins or Gabe Davis. I would prefer Michael Pittman if he hits free agency, but I just don't believe he's going to hit free agency. I feel like the Colts would keep him for sure. I don't like T. Higgins or Gabe Davis. Higgins is going to be expensive. He's going to ask to get paid like a number one wide receiver. It's going to be probably a 5-year commitment. And I don't feel like Gabe Davis is that good. I'd rather draft a guy and play him as the third wide receiver than pay Gabe Davis. And I like Jake. Jacobs is going to be more expensive than Henry or Barkley. To me, I mean, health being a big positive for him, and Jacobs is going to be the expensive running back. To me, that's what SpotTrack is projecting. The contract people, they're projecting Jacobs to have the biggest free agent running back contract. I'd rather get Josh Jacobs instead of Barkley for injury history. Still need a draft prospect in the late rounds. Yeah, Braylon Allen is my guy in the running backs. 20 years old, just turned 20. Freak at Wisconsin for a couple of years. Braylon Allen's my draft crush at the running back spot. I think I want whoever comes here on a good contract that's rushed for 1,000 yards consistently, who has a decent history of staying healthy. That's who I want if we do draft a runner like Corum. Blake Corum's a nice player. I don't know exactly where he's going to go. I don't know if he's a top 100 guy. I don't know if he's a third-round guy. You got to find a couple of guys at the running back spot. How about Brooks from UT be explosive in this offense? Yeah, I mean, if he comes back from the injury, he got hurt late in the season. He got hurt late enough that I would say that him drastically affecting your team in 2024 is lower than other guys. But Brooks is a really good running back. Caught the ball well at UT, ran the ball well at UT. Really good running back. I just worry about him coming back from the injury and helping you in 2024. Yayo says, let's go get Dre Greenlaw, second team All-Pro. He was a 5th rounder. Greenlaw about to be a free agent? Is he about to be a free agent? No, surely he's got a big deal. Oh, no, he's got a free agent. Yeah, 2-year, $16.4 million contract a couple of years ago. Yeah, sign me up for Dre Greenlaw. I mean, he can get broke off in free agency, but I'm down for that. Obviously, D'Amico knows him. I'm in. You think they release Woods for that $5 million? Yeah, I do. What's your take on Brendan Rice? So Brendan Rice, a USC wide receiver, Jerry Rice's son, really physical, really mean at the point of attack. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, there was a couple of reps where the guy was just like holding on to him. The refs threw the flag immediately, and he just fought through the contact and still caught the ball. Had a couple of drops. The consistency wasn't quite there. I mean, he had a beauty down the sideline that just boop, hit his hands and bounced away. Nice player, mid-round player. Like a bunch of guys more than him, but, nice player. Physical guy. Not, I don't know what the testing is going to say, but he didn't look incredibly athletic, just like blowing people away like some of the other guys did. Broly 2K asks, what do you think about Troy Franklin? He would fit perfectly in this offense, complete the wide receiver trio, and they'd be the best trio in the league. Tank, Nico, and Franklin be insane. Troy Franklin's one of my favorite players in the draft. Oregon wide receiver. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I would probably be okay with them taking him at 23. I'd be very okay with them trading back a couple of spots and taking him. And then in the second round, run the card up. Run the card up if he's there. He probably won't be there, but run the card up. What do you think the new uniforms will look like? Any Columbia blue in there? No Columbia blue. There will be an H-Town blue aspect to the uniforms. I don't know what they're going to look like. I do know there's going to be 4 different kinds of uniforms, kind of your traditional, your look forward, your H-Town blue, and then I feel like the last one's going to be a red. No one's told me that, but maybe a full red for the Texans as well. I also believe, no one's told me, but I believe that the red helmet will be the primary helmet. Yeah, Troy Franklin. There's another Troy Franklin guy. What do you think about Jackson Powers Johnson's been a second on Juice Scruggs last year, but he played left guard at the end of the season. They're like, I don't want them to spend a whole bunch or put a bunch of investment in the offensive line. You got 3 spots locked up right off the bat. Tunsil's at left tackle, Titus Howard's at right tackle, and Shaq Mason's at right guard. Go ahead and pencil Juice Scruggs or Kenyon Green in there at left guard, and then if it's not Scruggs at left guard, then it's him at center. If it is Scruggs at left guard, then it's Jarrett Patterson at center. Patterson played well enough that you don't need to go make a big investment in the center or guard spot here in free agency. Bucky Irvin is the best running back in the draft behind Trey Benson. In my opinion, would be a perfect mid-round pick. Yeah, look, add as much offensive talent as you can, man. Add as much offensive talent as you can. Saw Jacobs on the Urban Blogs old Insta thought Hazel E. I'd steer away from him due to questionable taste. I don't know what all that means, but I'll take your word for it. Jose Garcia, both Sanat, the Kansas State tight end, and Theo Johnson, the Penn State tight end, look solid. I'll be happy with either one. You need some depth at the tight end spot. Sanat was not as consistent as Theo Johnson at the Senior Bowl, but he does a lot. He did a lot at K-State and was a nice player for them. I would go tight end like, I'd probably take 2 swings at tight end late. Maybe an undrafted guy or, a late, I think I have 3 7th-round picks, late picks. You want to take 2 tight ends there. That's fine with me. Jeremy Crawford, we trade straps. We don't have to see a sophomore slump. He's got a lot of unanswered questions. I'm just saying. Craig, Stoots, if Bowers is there at 14, do you trade up the Colts to select him? No, I don't. I like Brock Bowers. Feel like he's a game changer, but the cost to go and get him, it just I can't do it. Rodney, Marshawn Lloyd from USC and Javon Baker from UCF could be good fits. They block. Lloyd was, to me, the best running back at the Senior Bowl. A lot of shiftiness, willingness to go out there and get contact, caught the ball well. I'll be down for a little Marshawn Lloyd. Chrissy Maltasanti's in here. I love Cody's sunglasses shade tan from Alabama. Yeah, you can see it here. Red, and then I got I have my sunglasses on here. It was boy. The sun got me. It's because the weather was nice, the temperature was nice. It's almost like I forgot that you got to make sure that you don't have the sun just absolutely crushing you when you go out there. I did forget the first day. Second day, though, I didn't forget. Had sunscreen, had an umbrella keeping the sun off me. I was ready. Texas Tech is a good punter. Will the Texans get him to replace Cam Johnston? Caserio at the Senior Bowl watched the punters quite a bit. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the question they would add a punter. I just feel like bringing Cam Johnston and Ka'imi Fairbairn back is pretty close to a no-brainer. So Cedric Gray, I see your connection there, Mr. Robot. Cedric Gray at linebacker, third or fourth round, had a great Senior Bowl, makes plays every game. So here's what I liked about Cedric Gray. Came off like a kind of a film junkie nerd. There's an interview portion that we had Wednesday night with the players, and I was watching Gray talk with a media member, and they were talking about, different plays from the course of the season. And Gray was like, yeah, there was a certain play that I didn't do well on earlier in the year, but I fixed it later in the year. And the guy was like, well, what do you mean? And Gray stood him over. He's like, you're the wide receiver and I'm the linebacker and I do this. And he was like drawing the play with people like in the media room to show the guy like how he got better over the course of the year. Pretty athletic on the field, identified some stuff well, did good in coverage. I like Cedric Gray. Not yet a crush for me in the draft process, but I liked him. Keep those comments coming. If you want to join in live audio or video, you certainly can, like our guy Sean G. Sean, what you got for me, baby?
Hey, Cody, how you doing, buddy?
Great, man. Great. How are you?
I'm good. So listen, I've got a couple of questions. And maybe you can attest to this better than most. I've heard that the draft is not tight end strong. Like there's Bowers, and there's maybe one other that are like solid, and then there's everybody else.
There's three guys that I consider to be the top guys. That's Bowers. He's in a class all by himself.
Right.
And then it's Jatavian Sanders from Texas. Mm-hmm. He's sort of the second guy in a class all by himself. And then the third guy, in most people's opinion, and certainly, I lean on them, is Stover from Ohio State, Cade Stover. Mm-hmm. So those would be the top three tight ends. But, yeah, it is a pretty weak tight end class, it feels like, overall.
Okay. So my question in regards to tight end is that if you could get Schultz to come back for a reasonable offer, like you don't have to necessarily like overpay him, but you shouldn't really shortchange him either. You can get him for a reasonable deal. Do you think it's possible to kind of reinvent the old, and pardon me for using the player here, the old Gronk Hernandez type of deal by bringing in someone like Hunter Henry along with Schultz to come in with it, similar to that for one? That's one. Go ahead.
Yeah, the tough part about that is there's not a Hernandez style guy, mm-hmm. in that, like, I mean, he was just a big wide receiver. Like, he could block a little bit. I mean, Sanders is pretty close to that. So, if you had Jatavian Sanders and Dalton Schultz, then you have the ability to kind of play around with some of that two tight end stuff.
Right.
But if you spend on Dalton Schultz, I would think that you'd wait on your investment in tight end. Mm-hmm. I don't see how you necessarily dig deep into the tight end realm, and unless Schultz leaves, and then you just try to bring in as many options as you can.
Right.
But if you bring back Schultz, it kind of feels like he's the dude, and then you'll fill in appropriately with depth guys. You got to remember, Brevin Jordan and Tegan Quintiriano are still on the team. Mm-hmm. Now, doesn't mean you can't bring somebody in to push them in camp, but those guys are still on the team. So you'd have, in theory, your tight end room back to an extent. I certainly wouldn't rest on that, just bringing Schultz back. Like, I'd try to push those other two guys.
Sure. It's just, I find it funny because a lot of us Texans fans thought for sure Brevin Jordan would be off this team coming out of camp.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, just after 1 year, we're like, hey, we got Brevin Jordan going into 24. We're square.
Yeah, I mean, he's a nice depth piece, but I don't know that you can count on him to a large degree to make a ton of plays over the course of the season.
I 100% agree with you. my opinion is, and I know you've mentioned this a few times in a few of your videos, that there are going to be players that are expensive, right?
Yep.
Your Mike Evans, Saquon's, Josh Jacobs, things of that nature. I really think they really need though to spend on one of those positions, one of three positions, which is either wide receiver, running back, defensive tackle. In my opinion,
Yeah.
right? There are some solid options other than Mike Evans. Like you said, Michael Pittman's a good one. I personally like the Saquon option, but I know a lot of people are in love with Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry. For defensive tackle, I know there's this pipe dream about
Chris
Chris
Jones.
Jones. Yeah,
Yep.
from him.
I don't think that's a pipe dream at all, man. I mean, if they want
Do you
Chris
think that's
Jones,
legit?
oh, for sure. I think you got to look at what San Francisco did with their defensive line this past offseason. And I know D'Amico's not there, but you got to imagine it kind of comes from the same line of thinking. They had Baby Bosa. They had Eric Armstead. They knew they were going to have to pay Baby Bosa, make him one of the highest paid defensive players in all of football, maybe the highest paid defensive player. Right. They'd already paid Armstead, and they went out there, and the number one defensive tackle on the market was Javon Hargrave, and they went and got Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
And so it's like they added to what was already a strength. So I don't think it's out of the question. Like as far as defensive tackles go, the top two sack guys at defensive tackle are both free agents, set to be free agents. Right. That's Chris Jones in Kansas City. He had 11 last year, and Justin Madubuike from Baltimore, he had 13 last year. And Madubuike is 26 years old, and he's going to be extremely expensive, but he might be worth every single penny. He was a total game changer last year for the Ravens. But yeah, I wouldn't say that that's a pipe dream at all. I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Okay. Just two other quick things here.
Sure.
Number one, of those three positions that I mentioned, if you're the GM, which one of those three are you looking to spend money on, like that big splash type of play? Are you thinking defensive tackle?
I feel like if they signed Madubuike, they'd have one of the best defensive lines in football. I know that's a defensive tackle, and they'd have to figure out what to do at end opposite Will.
Right.
But Will Anderson, Malik Collins, Madubuike, and maybe a veteran who's sort of like a bounce back candidate or a rookie at 23.
Right.
Like that'd be one of the better defensive lines around. Madubuike is not going to be cheap. He's going to be, $20 million a year player probably.
Right.
But if he's just starting to hit his stride, he's worth every penny. I think they're going to chase a defensive end if they can't get Grenard back. I think they're going to chase a defensive end. So, maybe Brian Burns from Carolina.
Right.
The guy that they were rumored to be interested in. Look, if you sign a defensive lineman, they're a $20 million a year player. Sure. So, maybe Grenard checks in a little bit below that. But Burns $20 million a year, Jones $20 million a year, Madubuike is $20 million a year. So you got to think two bigs, and then you got to fill out the rest of everything. So I mean, I go DT or D end depending on what happens. And obviously, re-signing Grenard is sort of your big commitment
right there.
And then they got to pay a running back. They got to pay a running back. They got to get better at running the football.
I agree.
And so that'd be the one for me.
Last thing, Cody, and I apologize if I've taken up this much of your time, but last thing, I know D'Amico said in his one of his pressers recently that he said that they've got to, I don't know if he said necessarily spend money, but I think the implication was that they need to spend on the front seven. I'm curious which one between Caserio and D'Amico is going to get their wish. Casario's more, I don't want to call it nickel and diming, but it's basically kind of nickel and diming 1 year, 2 year deals, kind of prove it deals for players. D'Amico sounds like he wants to spend money somewhere on the front seven, and I'm curious to know which one of those two between Casario's thinking or Casario's normal actions and D'Amico's words is going to come to fruition going into 24.
D'Amico Ryans will get what D'Amico Ryans wants. That's how this organization is going to work going forward. So if D'Amico wants a guy and he wants to spend the money, it'll be up to Nick Caserio to talk D'Amico Ryans out of it.
Right.
But if D'Amico Ryans wants a guy, D'Amico Ryans will get him.
Got it.
I mean, that's how this organization is going to run going forward.
I figured as much, but Casario's still the GM.
It's up to Caserio to explain if this, then that to D'Amico Ryans, and then have D'Amico with Caserio make that decision.
Right. That was it. Thanks for letting me get in.
Yeah, for sure.
And I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Good stuff, Sean. Appreciate you jumping in. You want to jump in like Sean? That's at the top of the chat there, pinned to the top. I'm surprised people are talking about Jatavian Sanders, the tight end from Texas, for us, especially if Schultz is gone. Yes, I mean, if Schultz leaves, I would look into drafting Jatavian Sanders. Sure. Defensively, outside of JG, who would you get draft and or free agency? I mean, we talked a little bit about that. Veteran linebacker, probably, if you could find the right investment level, makes a lot of sense for this team. Tony Yayo, hope Titus Howard can last a full season. You and me both. Dude reminds me of another small school product, Derek Newton, always injured. Now, Newton played a ton, and then he had both his knees explode trying to block Von Miller on Monday Night Football and never played football again, basically. I like Derek Newton. I mean, that was a nice find. Late round pick turned into a really solid player. Cody, given how bad the safety play was last year, what are your thoughts on Tyler Nubin, the dude who had 10 picks in the last 4 years? He's a turnover machine. I don't know a lot about him, but I'll put him down on the list to learn a little bit more about him and pay a little bit more attention to him and read up about him. So you're giving me a name to put a pin in. Newton, K. Johnson, or Franklin and T. Benson, perfect draft, still need a corner. Yeah, Darren's calling the shots. Got it going, though. Kaimi cost us in the Baltimore game, though. We should have had momentum going into halftime. I would tell you this. It ain't easy to find kickers that are worth a crap. There's about 5 of them. And after that, you're kind of spinning the wheel. So if you got a guy that's good to above good, you gotta hold on to him. Daniel says, I like the nose tackle Sweat. That's Tavondre Sweat from Texas. I don't know if he totally fits what the Texans want from that spot, but he's a nice player, man. He is a really nice player. Cam Johnston, he's a field flipping weapon. You damn straight about that. And he resembles Bill Burr. Yes, you are. You are correct about that. Cooper DeJean, round 1, CB or safety plus returner. This is the white cornerback from Iowa, and I'm in favor of this. I feel like there's about 4, maybe 5 corners who are first-round worthy. He happens to be one of them. Depending on who you talk to, he could be the top corner for some people. Nate Wiggins, the Clemson guy, is in the conversation. Terry and Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry are in the conversation. Quinyon Mitchell is in the conversation as well. So a lot of corner options should be there at 23 if they want to go corner. Yeah, CJ and Stover played together at Ohio State. That's Cade Stover, the tight end from Ohio State. Yeah, Brownlee Jr., Renardo Green. Quinyon Mitchell is one of my favorite players. Sign up for him right away. Right away. I'm in. All the way in. What happened to Tegan Quintiriano? Never saw him play. Went on injured reserve with an injury, and then they ran out of chances to bring him back. Like a solid wide receiver who may not be as expensive as Gabe Davis, a guy who can get you 700-800 yards, 7 touchdowns each year. He's also a guy that can only run a handful of routes and disappears. So it's tough for me to see the investment in Gabe Davis. I prefer a rookie to Gabe Davis. Back up the Brinks trucks for Chris Jones. Man, brings just a totally different level of nasty to that defensive tackle spot and can bump out and play end for you a little bit. Tart, Matabike, and Tart is the future. I don't know if they're going to bring – are you thinking of I don't know if they're going to bring Tart back. Tier Tart. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. Matabike is a freak, though. I'd bring him back. Tony Ayo. Purdy definitely helps to spend money on premium players and non-premium positions. Fred Warner getting $20 million a year for a backer. Yeah, look, but he doesn't make that much less than CJ. Like CJ obviously makes a lot more, but you can make it happen. You can make it happen. Bring in Bill Callahan to fix the offensive line and run the ball better. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know that their offensive line coach is going anywhere. And this offseason exciting. Damn it, I'm jumping in late. Yeah, you got plenty to catch up on, though. Manny, what's up, Stoots? I'm late to the stream tonight. That hat is fire. What kind of contract do you think Schultz is going to get? Do you think we keep him? So Texans Cap, who is one of the best cap resources, did a breakdown of what he expects Dalton Schultz to make. I feel like Schultz is making double-digit per year. So 10, 11 million a year. So 222, 225, 336 type stuff. And there's just not a lot of options out there at tight end. So I would consider paying it. John Ryan, good to see you. Oh, by the way, Manny, you can buy the hat. The link's in the chat somewhere, and it'll be in the description of the video down below. Good point on BK. Sorry if I butchered his name. Sounds like an elite step up in the middle. Will Anderson's our premier edge. Yeah, Anderson's got to take a big step. If you don't invest in the edge opposite Anderson, then you've got to expect that Anderson's going to be a big-time dominant force. Can't blame Casario for nickel and diming the first 2 years rebuild with no QB. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. He spent a little bit of money this past year. I still am interested in seeing the multi-year long-term commitment to somebody. Any Kenyon Green update? Here he's putting in work, still looks big, but he's going to need to be big to play guard. We need Quinyon and Sting together. I love Quinyon Mitchell. I love him as a prospect, the mentality, the mood, everything. This corner class is in the first round is kind of sick deep, about 4 to 5 deep. Yeah. I mean, you could very easily go corner, wide out corner, and have a good conversation that's a great start to the draft. Dylan asked about Michael Pittman. If he hits free agency, I'd certainly have the conversation with him. If he hits free agency, I would definitely try to get him. I don't believe the Colts are going to let him leave in free agency, though. I don't believe they're going to let him leave in free agency. So, Pip wants to weigh in. Pip, what you got, man? All right, Pip's out. Not a squeak from Pip. All right, how about that? Okay, housekeeping time. You can buy the hat. The link's in the chat. It'll be in the description. If it's not already in the description, it'll be in the description down below. In fact, I'm going to go add it to the description right now for this video. I think I can do that. I think I can edit the description as we go. Yeah. All right. There's only a handful of these left, by the way. See, there's not a lot of time to get a hat. There's only a handful of these left. I don't anticipate that we'll redo this hat anytime soon. So, if you want a hat, get to it. The link should be in the description down below. Refresh if it's not there. It's also in the chat over here. Out of stickers right now. We'll figure out the sticker situation here in the near future. Going to have some different merch stuff available on the store here pretty soon. So not just hats. People have asked for some other stuff. We'll have some opportunities for that a little bit later on throughout the course of the season. Houston football, www.houfootball.com. That's where I do all my writing about the Texans. Wrote about the Super Bowl window. Wrote about Mike Evans, or will write about Mike Evans this week. Obviously, did the video on Mike Evans. $7 a month. If you sign up for a year, I give you 2 months free. So I think it's a good value right there in your inbox or on the website. It's fun stuff. Really enjoyed the writing about this Texans team. Rack Balls says, Derrick Henry, just tuned in. Have you mentioned him yet? I don't know that Henry totally fits, but I'd have the conversation with him. I would have the conversation with him. Hollywood Brown, Curtis Samuel, not just T. Higgins or Mike. Any chance to make a run at Patrick Queen? Yeah. Why not? You can. You can. I'll be really interested to see if there's a veteran investment at the linebacker spot that D'Amico Ryans likes. Be very interested in watching that. That'll be a fun thing to watch here in this offseason. All right, so that'll do it for the stream tonight. Plenty more stuff coming on the YouTube channel. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy. They've got basketball. They've got baseball when baseball season gets here. They got hockey and soccer. And then, of course, football this Saturday or this Sunday. You want to get in on that. Underdog Fantasy, the best way to play fantasy. Get signed up in the link in the description down below. Buy a hat, the link in the description down below. Refresh if the link's not there. It should be in there. Now, and most of all, thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the super chats, the support, sharing, rewatching the videos, the comments, interacting. It's awesome, man. I have a blast doing this. It's so much fun. You guys make it so much fun. And we finish each and every live stream the same way. This is my hope for you. This is my charge for you as well. I want you to eat good, sleep good, be good. Kenneth, man, thank you. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very generous of you. Thank you. Eat good, sleep good, be good. And I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. Thank you, everybody.